People have often said, what a gift you have. Some have even called me a prophet. I've replied, it's not a gift for me, it's a responsibility I carry toward others. It's a gift for you. There isn't any self-satisfaction in hearing a voice. It's not for my own personal goals. The voice I hear is for everyone and anyone who wants to listen, who's suffering. Yes, there's always satisfaction when a life is changed and someone is healed. That satisfaction is knowing someone is freed from suffering physically or mentally. You don't have to like me, like the message I deliver, like how I deliver that message, or even believe in the voice that was bestowed upon me. I'm still a messenger. I never wanted to hear a voice. Even after I started hearing the voice, I still never wanted to hear it. There was no running from it, and eventually I had to accept it was never going away. Know that this information is always here for you and has a history of bringing the chronically ill out of the depths of lost hope, sickness, and despair, and bringing them into the light of healing. Discrimination for being the guy who hears a voice has been a challenge all my life, but that doesn't compare to the discrimination the chronically ill have gone through in their lives. I'm forever committed and dedicated to having the backs of the chronically ill, and as long as I'm still here, making sure I keep bringing forth the information from Spirit of Compassion. Again, from Medical Medium, Life-Changing Truths. Now let's get into the prophetic calling. Assuming Anthony William is indeed receiving genuine divine revelation, it helps to look at how prophetic callings function and why they often conflict with modern human ethics. From a traditional theological or biblical perspective, a calling from the divine is rarely presented as a gentle invitation. Throughout history, prophetic mandates operate under very different rules than everyday human interactions. In Judeo-Christian scripture, prophets are frequently drafted into service against their personal comfort, preference, or quiet desires. Jeremiah famously lamented his calling, feeling overwhelmed by the weight placed on him. Moses repeatedly made excuses at the burning bush, asking God to send someone else, but was commanded to go anyway. Covenants frequently involve severe terms, absolute demands of allegiance, or dramatic tests of loyalty, Abraham being tested with Isaac. From a cosmic perspective, the spiritual entity operates under a logic where the mission, saving millions of lives through physical or spiritual healing, outweighs the individual's personal sovereignty. True prophets in religious history rarely describe their role as a cozy relationship. It is almost always described as a heavy yoke or a burden. If Spirit knew that Anthony William was the required conduit to bring life-saving health information to millions of suffering people, Spirit utilized whatever moment was necessary to anchor Anthony into his life's mission. Prophetic calling is a weight. The fact that Anthony dreams of being free from the voice or feels bound by the duty doesn't necessarily mean that it's an evil voice, it's an evil being. Rather, it reflects the authentic historical reality of what being a conduit means. Servitude to a divine cause often requires giving up personal freedom, sacrifice, a burden prophets throughout history have wrestled with carrying. God commands Jonah to preach to Nineveh. Jonah refuses and boards a ship to Tarshish in the opposite direction. God sends a violent storm that threatens the ship, causing the sailors to throw Jonah overboard, where he's swallowed by a great fish. Jonah is essentially given a choice between death in the ocean or fulfilling God's mission. He surrenders only when he has no other physical option. Even after obeying, Jonah remains angry and bitter about the assignment. Ezekiel is called to be a watchman for Israel. God tells Ezekiel that he will be tied up with ropes so he cannot go out among the people, and God presses his tongue to the roof of his mouth so he is rendered mute. Saul is actively hunting Christians when a blinding light from heaven knocks him to the ground. Jesus speaks directly to him, asking, "Why do you persecute me?" Saul is left completely blind for 3 days until Ananias prays for him. A prophet is almost never sent to people to tell them, "You're doing great, keep it up." By definition, a prophetic message is delivered to a culture, religious hierarchy, or political structure that has gone astray. Calling out kings, priests, corrupt societal leaders, or systemic norms makes the prophet an immediate enemy of the state or established authority. People naturally resist hard truths, especially when asked to append their lifestyle or beliefs. Prophets are routinely mocked, cast out, or killed because the messenger is far easier to destroy than the uncomfortable message. Discrimination for being the guy who hears a voice has been a challenge all my life. Becoming a divine conduit usually means forfeiting control over one's own life, plans, and comfort. Look at Hosea, commanded to marry an unfaithful woman, Gomer, to visually symbolize Israel's unfaithfulness to God. Prophets inhabit an agonizing middle ground. They are deeply connected to a divine realm that others cannot see, while simultaneously being alienated from the very human community they are trying to save. Prophets rarely volunteer for their position. They are often drafted into service, often against their personal preferences or childhood plans. Anthony William has repeatedly stated in his books and interviews that he never wanted this life. He just wanted to be a normal kid and sought ways to get rid of the voice. True prophets face immediate resistance, ridicule, and pushback from the dominant institutions of the day. Kings, priests, or establishment figures. In this context, it would be deep state, pharmaceutical companies, the multi-billion-dollar wellness conglomerates, just as biblical figures clashed with religious hierarchies. Anthony William clashes directly with modern medical and pharmaceutical establishments. In theological terms, this story mirrors conditional covenants, where a human makes a vow or enters an agreement with God during a moment of desperation. We do this in modern times too. In Greece, we call it tama, where we ask for something and in return we make a promise to God. I will do this. If you give me this, I will do that. Hannah's vow. Desperate for a child, Hannah prays and makes a deal with God. If you give me a son, then I will give him to the Lord for all the days of his life. God grants her request and she surrenders her young child, Samuel, to live in the temple under Eli's priesthood. Finally, I want to mention something in case you're feeling bad about Anthony William. Across almost all spiritual frameworks, the extreme suffering, loss of autonomy, and earthly isolation required of a prophet are balanced by an elevated spiritual status and unique eternal reward. Paul writes in 2 Corinthians 4:17 that earthly suffering for divine work is not in vain, for our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that far outweighs them all. In the book of Revelation, prophets and martyrs are given distinct placement and honors in the heavenly realm. Good news for you and the ones who follow the prophet's words. Matthew 10:40-42. Whoever welcomes a prophet because he is a prophet will receive a prophet's reward. A prophet cannot carry out a massive, world-changing mandate in isolation. Those who host them, protect them, publish their work, or apply their health advice in the context of become co-laborers in that mission. Welcoming a true prophet often comes with social stigma, ridicule, or opposition from the establishment. How many people have been shunned when you tell them about, or you even try to tell them about medical meeting? Honoring the message when the rest of society rejects it demonstrates a high level of spiritual discernment and faith, which God rewards accordingly. Texts like Matthew 10 tell us that anyone who receives, supports, or stands by a prophet, a true prophet of God, shares in that very same prophet's reward. The spiritual framework promises that neither the prophet's suffering nor the follower's faith goes uncompensated. The earthly burden is heavy, yes, but in the spiritual view, the ultimate reward is absolute. Ladies and gentlemen, I submit to you Anthony William, a prophet of God. What do you guys think? God bless you.